Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming a very special guest, the director of a cult iconic 80s teen movie, and I've had several people on the show from that movie on the show. Lisa Gottlieb, who directed Just One of the Guys. You may remember I interviewed Joyce Heiser a couple times, Tony Hudson a couple times, Deborah Goodrich a couple times, and Stu Charno once. And I'm going to have Lisa on the show. We're going to talk about that movie. And we're also going to talk about, she also directed an episode of Freddy's Nightmares. And this movie that I really love and recommend, it's called Across the Moon. It's a little gem of a movie, a very Thelma and Louise-esque type movie. And also, I wanted to make an announcement. Happy birthday to Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson. Cool, man. I can't wait. That's so awesome. It's her birthday. I love celebrating Nancy Cartwright's birthday on October 25th. That's so awesome. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm a huge Simpsons fan. But for whatever reason, it's all good. Happy birthday, Nancy Cartwright. So, yeah, here is my interview with Lisa Gottlieb.
Hey.
Hey, Lisa. Welcome to the show.
Hey. Happy to be here.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm doing well. Are we on now?
Yeah, we're being recorded.
Okay.
Yeah, we're being recorded.
Are you good?
So yeah, it's such an honor because I grew up watching Just One of the Guys and Across the Moon, and I'm so happy we could make this happen today.
That's great. Actually, for me, I love both films, and I always felt that, when I took Across the Moon out to film festivals, it was really popular. It won audience awards. People loved it. I could just never guess. It was a mini major called Hemdale, and they'd made a lot of big movies that won awards.
Right.
So it looked like they were a good bet, but they sort of had a reputation of being hesitant to release movies.
Mm-hmm.
So they never really released it. It played festivals, had a bunch of European sales, but released it. There were some triggers. For instance, we'd had a couple of famous people. Well, certainly Christina Applegate, who had a big career and could draw.
Mm-hmm.
And before.
Mm-hmm. But going back to the beginning, did you fall in love with film early on?
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember the first movie you ever saw?
Probably. Why? And this was, my taking me.
Snow White? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Yeah.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm off speaker. I just think it's better sometimes. So I think the first one was probably Bambi, although I barely recall it. I think there were other little Disney films to follow. Now, when I was really more awake to that world,
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing things like Please Don't Eat the Daisies,
Yeah.
Doris Day film. I remember seeing Scare because I had a boy cousin, and he would take me on Saturday afternoon to Triffitt or something like that. And I have to tell you, that was really, those films like that really got under my skin. I loved them.
Mm-hmm.
And I started watching every horror movie.
Nice.
And also, this was cable TV, and you had 3 network stations, and then you had 5 or 6 local stations. And in New York, there was this thing called $1 Million Movie, and the same movie played like 6 nights in a row.
Right.
Another movie would come the next week. So if it's something you like, some old movie that just you got a kick out of, you could watch it constantly. And that was cool as hell. I loved that. And also, on the weekends, I'd have a babysitter, and my parents would go out, and we'd watch Chiller Theater, and I was pretty young when I'd seen Dracula, Frankenstein, The Wolfman, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and that was my shit.
Nice. What's your favorite movie of all time, though?
Probably, it's hard for me to pick one, so I'll give you a little grouping. I would say, well, a lot of Billy Wilder films, but I'd say Some Like It Hot, you like the world's most perfect comedy.
Yeah.
I think other films like Groundhog Day is just such a perfect comedy, so wonderful. I love Goodfellas because I think pure, great, brilliant American cinema, where on the surface you have a great story about loyalty, disloyalty, what's at stake, when do you turn on your family, and the subtext at the time, stuff, all these people that formerly we were told we should trust, who were basically stealing a lot of money, and I always thought thematically, Scorsese was working with thought this crime family, which was built on, this way you were part of this family and you could never turn on it. And the period that the film was made, they were all turning on it. It was, everybody saw that. So I think that's a great movie. I think things like Jean Renoir's Grand Illusion are just spectacular works of art. So I've got a lot of faves. I certainly think The Big Lebowski would be up there.
Oh, love it.
Certainly. Yeah. You can look at a film, plays, innovates today, more recently, a lot of different techniques in a really innovative way to get their ideas across. And for that, I would also have Big Short. Big Short.
Which one?
Skiers.
Oh, okay.
And how he told a story. The Big Short. It was basically about Wall Street going under, 2007. But it was just done brilliantly and so funny and really to the point. And it went from telling these sort of semi-biographical stories of these 3 extraordinary groups of men involved in figuring out that it was all a scam, but interspersed and musical, sometimes cutting, sometimes breaking the fourth ways, and to me that's great. So I think we're very lucky. I thought for a while, everything's going to be remakes of TV shows and remakes of movies, and in fact, there's still great film being made all over the world.
Absolutely. Did you go to film school?
I went to film school, Columbia College, Chicago. I thought I was going to be a doctor, but that was for me. Even when I was a kid in New York, I made a film. I was probably 15 years old. I made a film at the Henry Street Film Workshop, which was a big settlement house on the Lower East Side, where it was sort of like a community center with lots of classes and ways to get kids off the street. I wandered down there because I heard they had cameras. And I thought, I want to learn how to do this. And I made my first film on the streets of New York with a couple of neighbor friends of mine. and it kind of hooked me. But I was a still photographer from a very young age, and I was just showing up everywhere. Again, as a teenager, shooting demonstrations, going to rock and roll shows, and shooting footage and shooting stills, and basically all over the place. And those things started selling and getting published. So, in a very seamless way. But I knew I wanted to.
Yeah. According to IMDb.com, you were a casting assistant on the Blues Brothers and Continental Divide.
Yes.
Yes, 2 John Belushi movies, one directed by John Landis and one directed by Michael Apted. That's amazing.
So I knew both directors. That's the other weird thing. Well, I actually met John on Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
And let's just say that I was not shy. Here's the Blues Brothers story. They hired a kid in town, and they were doing about a full weekend of drive-bys with a picture car and a fleet car and a follow car just speeding around downtown Chicago. And me and my roommate, Linda Horowitz, they put us on a street corner somewhere, and they said, okay, you're going to keep people from running into the shot, and you're going to be on this corner. No
Right.
one was there. No one was running into the shot. No people there. We were there all day. They drove by a while later and gave us each a box lunch and drive away. And Linda and I looked at each other, and they say, look, so much for working on a big movie and learning something. This is not, this sucks. We committed to the weekend. So let's weekend so we don't get a bad rap, and then let's let them know that we're otherwise engaged.
Mm-hmm.
And then we both got recommended job.
Mm-hmm.
Just and said, you want to do casting office to me, and they asked Linda directly she wanted to work, maybe helping out in art direction, and we both said like simultaneously, yeah, anything to get us off this corner. So I was there first thing Monday morning, and I was the extras wrangler. So it was little extras. We had tons of extras because we were doing these big scenes out on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
Big scenes in the church, big scenes in cars. So I was hiring cars to drive and people to be background if there was in the streets. And I would go there in the morning. They said, look, why don't you ride the crew bus in the morning, have a little breakfast, so we had a camera, get friendly with Landis, get friendly with the first AD, and so you can ask them at a moment if they're not making a shot. And I said, well, I know how this works because I won't bother them until it looks right, and you will ask them what they want for or everything else they need the next day. And I got it. Stay as long as you need, fall into us. And that's what I was doing, because these women, who were great, by the way, and who ran the casting office, they didn't like being on the set. My dream was to be the camera and watch what they were doing.
Yeah.
See how they were doing everything. How different it was from the student film I was making. But I was making, which, pardon me, a year later would win the Student Academy Award and move me out to Los Angeles. So, John.
Mm-hmm. Wow, it's amazing. So how does... oh, go ahead.
So what are you doing here? And I said, I'm in film school. I'm making a movie when I'm done. So he said, I have to see it. You have to call me and you have to show it to me when it's done. So that was something that happened. I followed up on it. John signed me into the Directors Guild.
Nice. So,
Your turn.
Oh. So how does Just One of the Guys come into your life?
Well, was which was a parody of a Mike Hammer, which is very, very, very male, macho detective.
Mm-hmm.
And I called her Meg Hammer, and we shot it in Chicago with a student crew.
Mm-hmm.
I put it in for the Student Academy Award, and then I won one of the awards. I won a big award. And I was invited out to Los Angeles to receive my award and put up at the Beverly Hills Hotel for a bunch of days with all these other people who went on to work and do good work. Like John Lasseter was in this group. John Lasseter. Just a bunch of people who went on to make other movies. So it was just a wonderful group, and we spent this weekend together. We got our awards. And then I started getting invited in. I was sleeping on my friend's living room floor. You know, I was just thinking, well, what do I do now? I think I have to officially move here, but what do I do now? And, pardon me, John Landis got me an agent, and I met this guy who said, I love your film. You know, stay in it, keep doing it, and I'm going to get the perfect project, and I'm going to hire you for it. I could give you a development deal right now. I mean, it's less than my planned budget, but honestly, you just need to stay in it. And I said, of course, call me rhododendron. I need a job. Hire me to write something. I'll develop something with you. What do you want to do? Well, he didn't come through right then, but 3 years later or so, he was at Columbia Pictures. He called me. He said, I want to read this script. It's called I think it needs a spark. I think it needs a edginess. All that stuff that you did, all those risks you took in Murder in the Mist. I would hire you to rewrite this. You'd be attached as director. What do you think? And I said, like, what time should I be there? I want to do this. Because I read it, and it was really good. So, yeah. I mean, it was good, but it was a bit reminiscent. Like, too much of it was copied Valley Girl, a little bit too much of it copied.
Yeah.
Amy Heckerling's Fast Times.
Fast Times, yeah.
And I just felt like this fresh ground to be mown, particularly since a lot of it was based on gender. One of the reasons he thought it was right for it is I turned a kind of an iconic figure into a very sexy woman who was tough and had a potty mouth.
Yeah.
And they thought, well, want to turn Tootsie, female Tootsie in high school. That's how they kept pitching it to me, where she had to dress up as a guy. And I thought, all right, let me see what I can do. And I wrote about 4 drafts of it with a partner. A playwright in town. And when we started just, this with me, this would be really fun. We did these drafts, and we got greenlit. I changed the title, Live with Teenage Boy, which is the name of the article she writes.
Right.
About her experience. And the studio greenlit it. Then they brought a sitcom writer who was really fast with the jokes and was good at writing horny men. Why? Don't ask. Anyway.
Yeah.
He wrote a ton of funny lines for the brother, and we integrated that in, and we went to Phoenix and shot it. Phoenix and Scottsdale, which we called Kleenex and Scottsdale.
That's perfect. I used to live there, so I know.
Yeah. So that's really, it didn't require a big star. They said to me, $5 million budget or even below, if you can move fast enough. And I said, I can move fast. So it was so wonderful to just meet every actor in town and pick the best one. what I ended up doing. I just have a magical cast to this day. I know how lucky I am to have this.
Yeah, I mean, casting Joyce was just perfect because, I mean, she brings every dimension to Terry throughout the entire movie.
We worked hard at these ideas, you know. We thought what was interesting was to or acknowledge how crazy all the cliques are in high school and how the rules are bacteria, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And we played with, we knew we wanted to leave it in. But I also knew that this issue of, well, to have.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So grown up FX, they aren't sophisticated about it. I mean, they either want to do it or they're never going to do it ever. But you know, some that
Hello?
you know that.
Hello?
Hi,
Yeah,
you hear me?
I can hear you.
We assume that everyone is sexually active, you know, except for Billy,
Yeah.
Buddy, and we just kind of thought, well, what does it mean to be a young man versus a young woman? And if she's going to try to pass, she's a smart girl. I mean, make it work. And I gave them books. There's these famous books by a guy named, I think his name is Robert Johnson, and it's called, one is called He, and the other is called She.
Mm-hmm.
They're supposedly exploring what the inner workings of masculinity is and femininity, and also on the Venn diagram.
Mm-hmm.
And we purposely wanted Rick to be a sensitive guy,
Yeah.
but a guy who was bold and strong and he needed to be. We wanted her to be really smart and demanding of respect and all this kind of stuff. So they all read the book. I hired an actor friend of mine who had this very macho way about him.
Yeah.
The coaching sessions, which he Joyce how to walk, that's where the scene came from.
Mm-hmm.
Of Buddy teaching Terry how to stand like a guy, how to walk like a guy, and then ultimately how to scratch her balls. And I don't remember Mitch and I writing the scratch your balls bit. I talked to Jeff Franklin because I think he came up with that. I was been married twice, but I don't have that inside information. They must have gone.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stories about the cast and also the making of the film. It was just a joy to do, but we rehearsed a lot. A handful of the castmen, Mesa High School, which was not far from where we were rehearsing and where we were staging and shooting. We went for a couple of days, and then they came. They said, "Look and act older than us. I think we're fine." Because truth was, they'd been out of high school for a while. Let's leave it at that.
Right. Yeah, I was 3 years old in the summer of 1986 when the movie hit HBO, and for the next 12, 13 years or so, I mean, me and my family, we watched it every other day that it was on, both on HBO and then later Comedy Central, and we just we still to this day quote all the lines and laugh at it. I mean, just the movie was just so well thought out, especially the jokes, the ones that Buddy says, just are a scream. Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would walk into a video store. Remember those?
Yep.
And I'd fill out a card because I wanted to take out some videos. And some guy, just your normal young man film nerd, who's very pale, would look at my name, look at Fishy Pizza, and I'd say, "That's amazing." My name, you recognize it? I say, "Look, I am so honored that you are such a fan and that you would say to Fishy, I wouldn't feed my fish pizza," just, to sort of circle back to that.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, you should definitely get a girlfriend. You need to get out more. Because if you're memorizing the names of all the directors of your favorite movies and memorizing the dialogue, I think you're going to get out there and start dating. I do. So this was a pattern. It went on for years. People would, like, I went back to Colombia and I said, "Do you have any idea? I can't go anywhere without people telling me, quoting the movie to me.
Yeah.
You sure you don't want to develop a sequel? Are you sure?" But Tommy, often, I know we are more aware of this now because of the moment we're living in.
Yeah.
But my experience in Hollywood for years, after having made a big hit movie, with just one of the guys was a big hit, and then making a couple of really well-respected indies, and doing a bunch of TV, that when women do anything, it's just valued a little bit less. So they were just not about to do a remake. They were not about...
Yeah, it's very unfortunate.
Yeah. And the whole cast wants to do a narrative. Everybody wants to come in and do... We're going to do that anyway. We've decided next time we all get together for one of these events, we're going to do that. We're going to record our own narrative track, and we'll release it on, and people can run the movie and turn the sound down and listen to us gab about it.
Yeah, I mean, this movie has such a cult phenomenon, because it's just so hysterically funny. It's also very touching as well, too. It's got this nice little love story in it, and it's a lot more than a sex teen comedy,
It seems to hold up, because we did all realize that deeper vote.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite scene in the movie?
Pardon me?
Do you have a favorite scene in the movie? A favorite scene?
Carolyn pulls the socks out of the cave. Carolyn pulls the socks out of Terry's pants, thinking she's going to figure out something more important to move the relationship forward and get the socks. I quite like that. I love the coach, and I love when she has to first walk into the male locker room, and we do this great shot with the alien guys in the foreground saying, "I hate Jim, I really hate Jim." She gets on a conversation with the coach that stole bowling, and then she's got to go figure out how to change without anybody seeing.
Oh.
I like sequences like that. Low dialogue, lots of great camera work, lots of all these different groups of actors doing different things that come into the shot, and then the shot moves off them, and then the shot picks up something else. Will always be my favorite.
Yeah, I love when Rick humiliates Greg in the cafeteria. My dad and I, we just hysterically laugh at that scene to this day, because just Clayton Rohner is so great in that scene. And I love the scene when Joyce is typing the letter after the prom and she's crying. It's just such a tender moment,
Yeah, I love those scenes. I love it when she comes home. She takes that long, slow walk, and Tom Scott, who did who did a lot of composing, world famous great saxophone player, and I said, "I just want a solo sax here, a sad holding her jacket over her shoulder, almost like pictures from the after album of him walking along late at night. This is what we're doing, and I was like, he said, "You got it." He played like 10 different things for me. I chose the one I wanted. And her brother's daughter, and she says, "You know, everything's done. Whatever my had ended in failure." She says, and he comes and covers down, and Sandy is there. Sherilyn is there, and he looks up and says, "Oh, really? That's so interesting. Excuse us, we're really busy." You know,
Yeah.
she keeps talking, and they can't get rid of her. You know, that leads her crying over the letter and writing the article.
Right.
So, I love sequences like that because I think they really work beautifully.
I totally agree with you, yes. And how did you get Rod Stewart's backup band to play at the prom?
The guys who were organizing, like, thinking you always need a group of people if you're going to use pop music in the film. You need people who are going to negotiate the deals.
Right.
And they can also often, if we know music, I think they suggested this band because they've been doing some of these things, like they understood how playback worked. And they sent me their tape, and two of the songs I thought were good songs. So I thought, so I went to the producers, you know. I said, "Look, I have a couple of great bands in town who are my friends who like they're younger and would be right for the prom. But you tell me, is this better for you? Is this, you know what I mean?" I was always trying to get more budget money for camera stuff and to get more art direction. And I knew that some show, like, well, I've been arguing for you to give me more. Is this me giving you something? Does it make it easy to take this band? Is it cheaper? Is it easier? Is it less logistical? They have the
Yeah.
run them technically. And they said, "Absolutely. This is the path of least resistance. If you could go with this, if you like them, if you don't think they're right for the film, don't, you know."
Yeah.
I'm looking at the dailies. They knew they had something good. So we went with these guys also, and they were just sweethearts. And I thought I can hire people. A lot of people that think that you bring people in and you need to tell them exactly.
Yeah.
Where research.
Yeah, they had a really good sound, I think. They were a pretty good band, and that song is really catchy.
So I picked that song out of space, and they were thrilled because they said, "Oh, that's our single," and you went for it. So there's also a soundtrack of the pop music that's really good. They never made a lot of those because they know that those don't sell as much.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they had Dwight Twilley and Shalimar and Ronnie Spector on the soundtrack. Yeah.
Yeah, we picked the stuff, and it works good in the movie.
It sure does. It sure does. A couple of years after Just One of the Guys, you directed an episode of Freddy's Nightmares.
Yep, I did 2 episodes of that. I had Joyce in one of them.
Yep.
It was sort of seat of the pants shooting, a lot of effects. I happen to have been a fan of Freddy and his movies, and I knew Robert Englund, who played Freddy.
Right.
It was very funny because, you know, he was like, he'd done 3 of them, I think, the 4th one.
Yeah.
He'd been doing this whole season of Freddy's Nightmares, and when it came, he had a couple of days he came in mostly in front of a green screen with a lot of effects shooting, a lot of devastation on set. and this was the dismembered limb wrangler. The dismembered limb wrangler. So me and dismembered limb wrangler, and the art director and the stunt coordinator and effects coordinator, and we laid everything out. And what got me was that Robert would look at this bit we were going to do. Okay, this is where I cut off my own arm, and all these locusts and things spray out, insects spray out, and so he's got the spray thing, and we're going to do it. Yeah, we did this on 3. We did something like this where, like, I cut off my own leg and then pointed it up and aimed it. Cannonballs came out of it. I said, "Hey, whatever your comfort zone is here, I mean, I trust you to know how to do this stuff." And it was really fun working on that stuff. Really fun doing the effects. This crazy stuff happened. And, the shows are typical of those kind of shows. I call it babysitter television.
Mm-hmm.
They're all little moral tales. Little moral tales. The thing you want so much. You're going to get it, but it's going to screw you up.
Yeah.
Because you took the risk. So I did a couple of those. That was fun. I pitched them some ideas to write a few. But then I think I got another movie to make. Then I think that's when I was doing it.
Mm-hmm. And was Across the Moon your attempt at doing a Thelma and Louise type story?
Well, what I liked was this subgenre of desert movies. Like every filmmaker in LA had a little Kovac.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an amazing landscape for filmmaking, and even though it looks colorless and beige, there's a lot of texture and a lot of color and a lot of tone in it. And I thought it was beautiful. So I read the script. It was written by Stephen Schneck, who was a really gifted writer. He actually lived around the corner from me, but I didn't know until the script was submitted to me through my agents. And I read it, I loved it, and I gave it to a friend of mine who was interested in producing something with, named Robert Michelson. And we got it made. I mean, we shopped it around for ages, but Hembill decided to put up the money.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted 2 more famous names in it.
Right.
Then they were very interested in one of these big indie ensemble casts, and I was so lucky. It was the height of the indie revolution. These indie years in the '90s were so amazing.
Yeah.
Everyone filmed. So I got Michael McKean. I got Burgess Meredith, the great Burgess Meredith. Jack Nance.
Jack Nance, yeah.
And I loved Jack. I loved him so much. I said, I am so honored. He's the most unpretentious guy in the world. He said, I'm honored to be here. And believe me, no matter what you've done, it's just great. And I said, you're a tax nerd. We're going to have a great time. And, Elizabeth Pena, who I always loved.
Yeah.
Peter Berg, who turned into a director, but such a gifted actor. He was such a knockout. He came in, auditioned for me. I said, that's Carlisle. And then I pulled him back to read against Christina Applegate, and he was great. So that was our cast, and it was great. And then I hired Andre Sekula to shoot it, and he had just shot Reservoir Dogs, and right after I wrapped I looked at his reel, I looked at the work he did on Reservoir Dogs, and I thought, I think you're going to get what it is I want to do visually here. And he did. We were in sync. That was one of the great artistic moments. And I have to say, Andre is great. He's so brilliant.
Yeah, I loved Elizabeth Pena too. She was so talented, and My favorite scene of the movie is when they go to the prison and they won't let them in because Christina Applegate's wearing a shirt that shows her belly button.
Right, right. So the Jack, I like all the prison scenes. I really loved setting all those up. All the extras in the room. That film, I really enjoyed making that film. I loved the cast. Again, I'm always in love with cast. I'm always having a great time on the set and a great time in rehearsal. And it was fun. I had a great first AD who every day had to be a special day, like a funny hat day, or wear your pajamas to the set day. I mean, it just came up with things endlessly. It's like every day we get the call sheet and realize, oh God, I got to plan an outfit for tomorrow. We just had fun, and we were marooned out in the desert, in a motel with a swimming pool and a hot tub in the middle of Lancaster. And we were mostly shooting in Lancaster, Mojave, and Tehachapi, which was the original title of the film. But they didn't think anybody would know what it meant. I'm sure they're right. And in fact, we changed it to Across the Moon. And we got a great song called Across the Moon from Maxine Cervenka and Juliana Hatfield, backed by the legendary, brilliant band X. And that was a great song, and that was also a great soundtrack. I was so proud of all this wonderful stuff we found for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used to have that movie on VHS years ago, and I just always loved it and stuff. I'm a guy, I'm sure you can tell this from talking to me, I'm a guy who's pro-woman, and I love watching women just do great performances, in film.
Oh, yeah, and, we wanted to do this thing, right? I had said, we wrote into it that they'd be sitting and talking and shaving their legs out in the desert using a bucket, to dip the razor in and wash off. And we got to do this. We've got to do this. It's like, this is something these two girls would definitely do that nobody would ever put in a movie. Let's do it. Let's put it in the movie. And actually, it was a big favorite at film festivals. I got a lot of feedback about this leg shaving thing. Pardon me. But I just had an awesome time on set as well.
Mm-hmm.
We're so fast. We were in really boiling hot conditions. It's 125 degrees out there. And everyone was just a total champ.
Was it a very short shoot because of Christina's schedule on Married with Children?
More than that, it was just, we had a certain amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
We were shooting in town for a couple of weeks, and then we were shooting out in the desert for a couple of weeks. And these were, but we went, all in all, we shot it under 30. And that's pretty fast. I think one of the highest was like the shortest it ever had, and that was like 48 days. The movie I made after that, Cadillac Ranch, I think we shot that in 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cadillac Ranch. I'd never seen that one. I was surprised that I'd never seen that one.
These things, we think we live in a world where everything's on YouTube, and
Everything's on YouTube, yeah.
Companies that made it didn't then really take care of it, look after it in post-production.
Yeah.
And the digital masters didn't take the time to do a higher quality DVD. I mean, I had DVDs of Cadillac Ranch, but we had wanted to do a narration that I wanted to take all these scenes that were cut out and put them in, and they just they couldn't do it, because we're limited, and how much they were willing to do on the DVD. That's back to Cadillac Ranch, and especially just one of the guys. Take a Blu-ray of each,
Yeah.
with the narration track, and with some extras. So, every time I get a chance to talk to Sonio about it, I do.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, well, not now, and we don't even know if we have the elements, and we how much of an investment it would be. Now, I know they have the elements because even until very recently, I'm the direct notified when they're doing any kind of recutting or a new format. So I know that stuff is still sitting there in post-production. They have the elements. It just means that it needs to upgrade. Just one of the guys was an early DVD. It wasn't.
Yeah.
When it came out, it cost like $99 to buy it.
Yeah.
To give you context, they didn't see it as the thing it became, which is that everyone who loved a movie was going to buy the DVD of that movie.
Right.
I think they didn't predict that would happen, and within a year or two, that was happening. And even back then, I was saying to the studio, why don't you do a version with us on it? And everybody maybe half of the people who bought it will rebuy this one to get the extras. And they didn't believe me, but I was telling them the truth, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to see just one of the guys on Blu-ray with a commentary track and featurettes and all that stuff. I think it would be perfect. And, I wanted to ask you before I forget, I saw the trailer for just one of the guys. There's some deleted scenes in the trailer, right?
Possibly. I haven't seen it in ages, so I don't recall.
Yeah, there was like little scenes that were like cut out of the movie I saw, like Terry trying to, when she's trying to make friends, she's like tries to sit at this one table and they all get up and leave, and she's like, "Was it something I said?"
I remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
I wrote that line. I know. That was, I would say this over the email somebody that don't even was it something I said?
Yeah.
I always do that. Yeah. Again, they to do all these international sales and all this stuff. There's a stack of film cans somewhere that all of this stuff is in. And as a matter of fact, if it was the initial trailer, there's a good chance that they made a high-quality digital master of all of it for that purpose. So it's gettable. The idea is someone there has to feel there's an incentive in going and looking for all this stuff, screening it, seeing what's usable and what isn't, exploring what making the stuff that's, needs upgrading, how much that would cost, it still can be done, you know what I mean? It's just time, the money, and the incentive to do it. And that's why I always tell fans of just one of the guys to email and have their whole family's email and have all their friends email.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't needed a Blu-ray of just one of the guys. It's so great. We'd all buy it. We're big fans. Everything else gets remade. Everything else gets a Blu-ray. Why not this? And, I'll always tell people, or suggest at least, you could do that. Maybe we'll end up with a Blu-ray. But I don't know.
Yeah. But
we did a screening a few years ago at Cine Familias or Cine Family, whatever it's called. It's the old Fairfax theater that was a silent movie theater. And we did this sold-out screening that was so great. The print was good, and everybody was so happy. And right afterwards, I started writing to some of the people in post-production. production that I knew to say, this is what happened. You know, I invited you to this. Of course, you didn't tell, but there is a fan base for this. I can't believe how I get attacked online when I do a live call-in with anybody, or I did a live chat session with Jezebel magazine that focused on just one of the guys 1 week, and then we did it 6 hours either time. I mean, this film has a real impact on a lot of people, young women especially. And I just can't tell you, immediately right after that, I get a call from somebody, and they said, look, we're not allowed to return your email. I'm calling to be in touch with you. You're going to read about it in the newspapers, but we've just been hacked. Beyond belief, beyond existence. We've been hacked. We've been hacked, or as hacked can be, and we're just cutting off all communications for a while. Congratulations on the screening.
Wow.
We're just out of it for months. It's so when, Scott or somebody else from the cast would say, well, what's up? Why aren't they doing anything? And I said, a little busy with other stuff right now. And then, of course, we'd all laugh because we know exactly what it's about. They really got it.
Next time you guys do a screening in LA, I'm going to do my best to go check it out, because that sounds like it'd be a lot of fun to see you all there.
Well, Joyce is talking about trying to do a benefit for the film and run. And
a benefit?
In the spring. And I'll let you know so you can promote it too on your podcast. And you can definitely, we'd all be there. And actually, we'll be trying to get together a recording session at that time to do the sound stuff, to do the narrative stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that.
So we're planning on doing that. We'll see if it comes.
Oh, I hope so. That'd be great. I also see you just did a movie called Black Friday.
Yeah, well, after Cadillac.
Hello?
Yeah. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so after Cadillac Ranch, a few years after that, I was doing television, I was writing screenplays, I was doing all this other stuff, and then things were slowing down, and the digital revolution was so entrenched, and I felt like, well, I can go back to New York, and I can make films in New York. I don't have to be in Los Angeles. I actually love Los Angeles, but I was really sick of driving from Los Angeles, and I thought I would go back into New York and drive less. Anyway, I got offered a job. I was at the film school at Columbia College, Chicago, to kind of build a more advanced top layer based on professionalism and all this stuff, and that excited me. And I went because I had a lot of filmmaker friends there, and I thought, oh, I can make a couple of documentaries while I'm there. I can get other stuff done. Maybe I can do a lot of writing, and I can fly to New York for and have an episode to direct. Got offered even bit.
A what?
Money. I got a great job as an associate professor teaching directing at the University of Miami in Florida. So I went there, and again, I was they were winning awards. I was writing a feature, and I had a student who wrote short, funny plays that was in my direct class, the break room on Black Friday. Missing thanks working with a 20-hour shift, and how crazy they're getting in the middle of the night. And I said and this is a woman named Jenny kind of the internet. She plays Aurelia, this crazy Latino grandmother who gets into her food face. She's hilarious. But in this, she's playing a girl that works with her friends at the Friday in the big box. not a writer, but I'd love to be in it, and I'd love to help cast it and produce it. I mean, can we actually do it? I mean, what do you need, a short film or feature? And I've been micro-budget feature making, because the students all want it. I said, well, you might need 100, but still, let's look at it. Let's see what it takes. So, almost on a lark, well, I won a grant. I won a grant of about $15,000, and I thought, well, what the hell? I have a bunch of my stuff I would do, but I don't really know how to do it. It's about casts that I know from New York and LA, and it can't be done for $15,000. Maybe I could do something for $15,000. So I wrote that Friday. We cast out all the best theater companies in town and also our theater department, and got a really fun cast.
Mm-hmm.
Very diverse, very interesting, very Miami cast. I got to shoot it on campus in a bunch of sets that we built, and I was able to give, I had the key people who were all professionals, but in the department it was all students and also volunteers who wanted to get this experience. So we shot it on spring break, like a week and 2 weekends. Where I got it done, and I got music on it, and colorized, and when you're cutting it, at that point, we were cutting it on a final draft, and we needed to hire somebody to convert it and make a digital master of it, because if you're going to make it, you kind of need the ultimate version, and that's not cheap.
Yeah, I'm sure it's pretty expensive. Do you know when the movie is coming out?
Give me that finishing money. We'll show it in a couple of festivals as a work in progress, and I'm quite convinced that it would find its audience if it was done. The thing is, it shot with Splat Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Had the opportunity to just get a producing partner to put that last 10,000 in, and then hit the festivals with it. I know at the very least it would probably, it would get an internet release of some kind. It has that. It's very funny and silly and kind of relevant. But that remains in progress until I put into that last money, because you learn something when you make movies and you're making micro budget features. Don't on the table. You're reaching in your pocket all the time. I probably put $5,000 of my own money in just paying for stuff that I needed on the set.
Uh-huh.
But at a certain point, you have to say, I'm not putting $15,000 on my credit card. It's too much of an unknown. If it's good enough to finish, it's good enough for me to find the. So that's sitting there, and I would love to see it get finished and come out.
Well, I hope it does, because I mean the whole state of independent film now is just really fucked up from what I see. You make a movie, you take it to festivals, and you hope it gets picked up, and it's just I don't know what the future for independent film holds now with that system.
Well, I will say this: in the '90s, after that amazing year at Sundance that gave us Reservoir Dogs,
Right.
X-Live and Videotape that gave us Gas, Food, and Lodging. Robert Rodriguez's film Desperado. Was that it? The first one.
I think so. Or El Mariachi.
El Mariachi.
Yeah.
So that was really revelatory. I forget if it was 91 or 92, but it was right there. And that just launched all those careers. And it also meant that every year at Sundance, a lot of the films that made a splash, those directors got more work. Those screenwriters got more work. Those casts started working all the time, their careers took off. The DPs worked. Everybody associated with these indie films just, went viral in that version of that thing, got the buzz, and got to continue doing great work. And that went on for the whole decade. I contributed 2 films to that period and won a lot of film festivals, and both of those, and, Cadillac Ranch had a really nice run. He never released Across the Moon. It came out as a DVD, and there was and as a VHS, and it did come out in various places in Europe because Christina and also Chris Lloyd. Not Chris Lloyd was in. Who's somebody else who was in Across the Moon also had a lot of cred internationally. Played, I think, maybe a week in New York, but it's first moment. So I would love that one to be rediscovered. But who knows? So, what happened when Disney bought Miramax and all the other big entertainment conglomerates bought up all of the mini majors and the film production houses and the distributorships, and we all thought were money flowing into indie film. And in fact, what happened is they just shut them all down. The studios did not want the competition.
Right.
So that's when after that, when this micro-budget filmmaking fad kicked in, this trend kicked in where if you could make a movie for under $100,000, you could probably make money. Suck. And if you won some festivals, proven far and sale, that's money for your investors. But that just kept the middle out of the picture. That meant movies that were from $1 to $2 million, which if you look back, there's nothing made. We just haven't been getting made.
Yeah.
Excellent news. There'll be 6 or so breakout films, and if 2 of them are written and directed by white guys, they go on to get big movies. If a black person or a woman directed it, maybe they get the pitch to Netflix. But we still have those. Now, my friends who were in the end still on cruise, every day they're gaffers and they're partners.
Right.
Let's come back because women directors everywhere. Women directors have taken over.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and we shall see what happens with the film. I hope it gets released, though. That would be great. But yeah, what was that? Hello?
Great indie film come back. Real power where they were in the 90s. That they come back strong. That even the studios figure out how important it is to have that level of it. And not everything has to be a tentpole blockbuster. More. They make more indie films. That's what I think.
Yes.
It's going to happen to indie. Everything goes away and it feels old, comes back again and is renewed.
I sure hope so. Amen to that, Lisa. I thank you so much for coming on today, and keep me in the loop with that screening in the spring. That would be so good to go check that out.
Will do. And can you just send me a text or an email that links me so that I can get on and listen to this?
Oh yes, and by the
listen to some of your other shows as well.
Oh, that would be great. Yes. Oh God, the ones I do with like Joyce and Deborah are pretty funny. They're like laugh out loud funny, and Even though you broke up a whole bunch during this interview and stuff, everything you said kind of tied together, strangely enough. So, yeah, if it turns out shitty, I apologize, but we did what we could, you know.
Do you do a little edit on it, or it is as we've recorded?
I do have to do some editing at the beginning and stuff. I do edit certain things, like if there's some like silence, or like, you know, if I have a guest who doesn't pick up their phone right away, I have to, you know, keep it recording and then I edit it later and stuff.
Okay. Well, listen, look, this is the first time we're doing it. I'll listen to it. I'll listen to the drop dead funny ones. I'll listen to all of these, and then maybe when you come back next time, we can do it in a way that it won't be as broken up. See, this is the problem with cell phones, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like they're really good at everything except being a phone.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best way to put it, Lisa. That's the best way.
I mean, I'll be in these long conference phone calls, and we'll all be breaking up, and who's going to be the first one to admit that nobody can hear anybody, you know? You just taking it, and then I might say, you know, can we try this again? Can we fix this? I'm missing half of everything. So anyway, this was a pleasure, Tommy. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate that. Yes, so I will tag you in this on Facebook, and we will talk again. Have happy holidays.
You too, honey. You have a great time, and I will make sure you're on the list to be called so you'll know when we're doing the thing. If it comes together, I'd be so happy. So, yeah. Joyce kept saying in the spring, so we'll see. And I think I'm going to see her tomorrow, so I will bug her about it.
Oh, awesome. Tell her I said hi.
Take care.
You too. Have a great day.
Thanks, Tommy. You too. Bye.
Bye. Well, there you have it. Lisa Gottlieb. Ain't she a sweetheart? Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm glad we got to have that conversation, even though we broke up a bunch of times and stuff. But it's good for what it is. But next time will even be better and stuff. You're an amazing lady, and I'm glad I got to interview one of the amazing ladies from that early wave of female directors coming prominent into Hollywood. And it's a shame so many of them are underrated, but you know, to me, you're not underrated. I love and adore all of you. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes.